Commander, on a day like today, to watch the commissioning of this ship, what are your feelings in general?
Well, it's kind of a touching ceremony and a touching situation to be remembering some of the old days when we were still pushing the throttles. And this is only the second commissioning I've ever been to. I was at the original commissioning of the Hornet in 1941 back in Norfolk. This is only the second one I've ever attended, and it's kind of touching.
Had you ever met Stephen Groves?
Oh, I met Stephen when we were in training at Jacksonville. He was 2 classes ahead of me. I was in 3B41J. He was in 2C41J, so we were practically in the same group.
You were one flyer involved in Midway who returned.
Well,
is there one day or 1 hour of that time in your life that you remember most vividly?
Well, I remember it, but it's very hard, very difficult after 40 years to remember all the details. It's very sketchy, you know. But I never want to go through it again. I never thought I'd make it up myself. It's practically, at that time, I was still wet behind the ears, and I just don't know how I ever got back by myself from the Japanese fleet.
You were flying off
the Yorktown as cover for the torpedo planes off the Yorktown.
The Yorktown was destroyed.
It was destroyed later that afternoon. It was hit initially around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was already safely back on the Hornet at that time, but then the Yorktown went down on Sunday morning from a torpedo from a Japanese submarine.
You were flying what type of airplane at that time?
Grumman F4F, the best airplane that was ever made, because it was full of holes when I got back, and it was still flying.
And you were flying against the Japanese Zero.
Right against the Zero, who could fly circles around us. They were just absolutely fantastic, but they didn't have the protection that the Navy built into our planes, which gave us not so much speed, but a lot more protection for the pilots.
How does a pilot at that time feel about that balance?
Well, it just as soon had the protection, even though you have to give up a little speed.
And there were more of the Japanese planes.
Well, we got on the scene over the Japanese fleet. You couldn't take time to count, but it was, I would say, between 15 and 20 Japs jumped the 6 of us. And we were busy boys for about 15 minutes.
There was no question at that time in your mind that you were vastly outnumbered? I mean, it was
evident. They were coming at you from every direction. You pick on one and somebody pepper you from the rear. So it was just a question of, hey, survive. You know, your hands are wringing wet and your mouth is bone dry.
Do you know how many planes in your group went down?
Only one in our group, of our fighter cover. And of the torpedo planes that we were covering, I think that 3 out of the 12 or 13 got back.
What do you know about Stephen Groves' group?
When I was coming back to the Hornet, after being over the Japanese fleet, Steve at that time was flying combat air patrol over the Hornet and the Yorktown and the Enterprise. And I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if he wasn't one of the guys that they sent out to intercept me, because I was coming in on the wrong direction like a bogey. They probably figured I was another Jap coming in. But I all of a sudden saw 2 F4Fs come zooming out of the sky right at me, and they just passed me by because they recognized the plane.
What's your feeling about the possibility of a battle like that in the future?
I don't think there's going to be anything like that in the future. It's gotten too sophisticated. It's, well, no other comments.
Commander, thanks for talking to us.
Right.
Take care. Good luck.